Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Prophet Frederick Delaney here. Just back to the future. So we got to backtrack in order to get to the future. Future's beautiful. Sunshine, sunshine on instead of a cloudy day. So imagine this, okay? When the they cause the Antichrist, we are living in a Babylonian system, which we call Antichrist system, and we've been living in it forever and a day. Seems like since the fall of mankind. So when they pushed them off the Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, pushed the peoples off in the Trail of Tears. So with that caused a lot of negative energy, unresolved conflict, which is unforgiveness. So the weather is erratic because of the unresolved conflict. Because if we were in harmony, which is another word for heavenly, heavenly state, heavenly word, heavenly speaking, love, God poured out His Spirit, love. So it's a God-sized problem to get rid of this negative energy charge that charges up the storms of light, the liars. We're going through a major storm of lies and liars, and since we didn't quite understand it till now, that the storm of lies is all around us in the governments, in the churches, in all these different institutions of life. So we are there, whether or not, we are there. Whether we are there, we are there. So we are causing the weather to be erratic, bipolar, because we got lies in truth, lies in truth, lies in truth, lies in truth. The two sides fighting. So like tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever, it's hot and cold air fighting. It's like chasing each other, causing a whirlwind. The tempest, and like I said in the Bible, the tempest, wells without water. So these people in leadership, high principle leadership, are wells without water, which means they have not the Spirit of God. It's in the Bible. Type in wells without water. So we're going through this massive storm of lies to eradicate lies, not believe in the lies anymore, and come into harmony with God, which is love. So it's a God-sized problem. Only God can get rid of all the trauma. Only God can take away the sin. Only God can take away the liars that cause us to sin. So the devil's lies cause us to be their sinners. So we're enslaved to sin because of this Babylonian system that God is doing away with in this time. So if you can imagine God pouring out a Spirit, which is love. Like I said, if you don't take out your garbage, your neighbor will. So love God with all your heart, all your stuff, all your mind, and have no other gods before Him, and love thy neighbor as thyself. The two commands that Jesus gave. That's what we're going back to. So back to the future. So the future is in such a heavenly harmony state, and we're just kind of going to condense this. So a lot of people are worried about the solar flares. Now, what they don't understand is the solar flares, God is sending a different type of radiation, photon, photosynthesis, like that causes leaves to grow, like in fifth grade science. So God is causing the earth to change for the better and causing us to change for the better. And we must not fight it. So God is causing the sun to put these, what do you call it, electro, what's the name? The sunspots, what do you call those solar flares? He's causing all this. So we just have to sit and relax and allow God to rebirth us, turn us, like in a sense, of a caterpillar into a butterfly. Instead of a creepy thing, we're turning into a godly beings, the sons and daughters of God. So when God can only do it, He can only do it if you surrender. Now, the people that are fighting it because they're all paranoid about solar flares and solar radiation storms and all that, they don't understand that God is doing this. And in science, when they look at it, they believe it can, which it could. It could knock out the power grid. It could vaporize us. It could do all kinds of bad things. But it's a good thing, a God thing that God is doing it, and it's a positive thing, and we have to surrender to it. That don't mean go sit in the sun all day, but it's yield, surrender to God, and allow Him to change you to go through this metamorphosis to a mere man, mere woman, into a son and daughter of God Himself, in harmony with God. And you don't have to worry about all these fear, because fear attracts the storms, fear attracts the evil, fear attracts the demons, fear attracts all the negatives that you do not want. It's like a magnet, negative magnet. So on a positive note, we are just surrendering as God changes this time. So we're in this massive time change as 2024 will come to an end and go 2025. So 2024, Jesus says about 2 by 2, and 4 is the foundation. Now we're also in year 5784. 5 is the hand of God, favor of God. 7 is spiritual completion. 8 is new beginnings or infinity. And 4 is a foundation. So we're going into a foundation in God, in Jesus Himself, because G is us, God's Spirit in many. Going into a foundation, then we're going to go into favor. Now the enemy, the negative, evil rulers, and the ones that are stuck in fear may implode. Now, if you blanket all of them like that, now if you separate them, you know that some of them can't be saved for sure. But then there's this middle ground. So there's a third, and a third. So it says Satan gets a third, then there's two, then what's left is two halves. Okay, God's people and the other that need to be transformed. But they only can be transformed through the revelation of surrender to Him. And that's why we got to teach much. And, repeat. Teach what the Lord is saying and repeat it to other people, because I'm just one guy. We only have maybe, I don't know, was it 146 people that are following, but they're not all following and watching, and they don't understand it because a lot of people are caught up in all this fear and religion, which causes fear because it's reestablished in the legion. So as Jesus went to sleep in the boat, and like I said, the disciples saw the storm afar off, and they caused it to become a massive storm because of their fears. They caused it to be a massive storm. And the weather, we are there. The weather, we are causing this by our thoughts and fears. So now Jesus had to rebuke the fear in them. He had to rebuke the storm in them in order for the storm to die down. And immediately the time changed because they were at the other side of the lake. Immediately the time was changed. So we're coming in this time of immediate, or what's the word, acceleration, immediate, suddenly is the word they use, to where you surrender, and then God has to do the rest. Now we don't have to do a lot because God is God. He cut Him in for 99.9%, and we just do our little less than a percent. So because it's Him who has to do it, and we have to allow Him to do it. And I know it's easier said than done. It's more easy sometimes for people to fret and flutter and worry and chew their nails and everything else, but that's not what God is saying in this time. He's saying, surrender, let me be God. That's what God says. Be still and know He is God. Be still. Still the waters. Don't allow yourself to be all stirred up in all this evil negativity and the liars. So we're going through the eye, into the eye. We're going into the calmest part with Him. And I know it's easier said than done. So I've been walking this a long time. And when He shows you the future and you see how beautiful it is, when people come into harmony, a heavenly state of mind, soul, being, be in, be in, be in him, being, you know, B-E-I-N-G. So there's a native definition for ing, which means belonging to. So if you go back to Genesis, Eve's name was shortened to Eve. She was the mother of all living. She was, spiritually, she was. Then she wasn't. So her name was Evening. And Adam's name was after the morning, the day and night, the day. So if you look at a King James Version, day and night, the first few verses, I think it might be verse 5, they're capitalized. That's because he's talking about mom and dad and mom, day and night. And evening will rule, we will rule the day, the men will rule the day, and the woman will rule the darkness, is because the woman was deceived, Adam was not. The woman was deceived, so she will rule the darkness. Evening will rule the darkness. The women will rule the darkness only because they don't agree with him anymore. It's as simple as that. Don't agree with him anymore. Don't agree with liars that mess up the weather, that screw up the weather. So they got control of the weather through electronics, frequencies, magnetics. And not only that, they're going to devastate Florida, New York, Texas, California, which is already being done. Then they also use our negative energy to enhance the storms. So if we took back our, or should I say, stomped out, erased our negative energy, and had faith in God, those storms would dissipate, even though they're enhancing them electronically with frequencies and stuff. Just as that storm came across from Cuba, and then it turned into Category 4. Storms don't turn into Category 4 that fast. You know, over, I don't know how many miles it is from Cuba to Key West, 50 or 80 or something, I don't know. So they enhanced the storm, and it blew up the Sanibel Island and Fort Myers. But if you could imagine that we have the power that is within us, which is God within us, surrendering to God, agreeing with God, then everything agrees with us because we agree with God. But if we don't agree with God, nothing agrees here because we're liars. So if you can imagine, we can take back, we are there ready to take back into a positivity, into the frequency of the Holy Spirit, of God himself, in order to knock down the storms. Now, since I was 7 years old, I would knock down storms. And if we needed rain, I just call for rain. And it became normal for me. Now, there's many times that Jesus said, no, pack up your stuff. It's going to rain in 10 minutes. Yes, Lord, because he's the boss. I don't have all power, all might like he does. So I'm just a servant. But there's many times where he will, like when a tornado came up to a job a couple of years ago, and I was going to tell my son to put away tools, but instead I just turned around and rebuked the storm, and we just kept working. Then the homeowner came up and asked us, man, did you see that tornado? It's forming over Saluda Dam. And I said, yeah, we rebuked it, and we kept working. And I didn't say anything else because, people don't believe this stuff, and then they think you're being a prideful bleep. But we didn't need a storm. We need to finish our job. Nobody needs a storm. We don't need no storms of lies. We're going to take back and stomp the liar, put our foot on the snake's head, kick him in the teeth so he cannot lie anymore. If you don't believe in his lies, then you're not praying his lies, not believing his lies, not enhancing the storm, not enhancing the weather. You're dissipating. Oh, it's a little cold out here. Forgive the jiggling. It's cold out here. So, yeah, I'm back in the Bible Belt. It's going to be unbuckled. So, because it's a choke chain. It's a bondage to fear and mankind, the Babylonian system. So, we'll queue up another one, but let's keep going back to this, where we are there. Weather. We are there. We cause bad weather because of bad thoughts, bad thinking. bad word. Speak bad word, hear bad word. What you speak out of your mouth, your ears hear. Don't speak bad words. Because the power of death in life is in the tongue. The power of death in life is in the tongue. Power of death in life is in the tongue. So God bless you. I appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe, please. Amen.